Screen legend Sylvester Stallone was part of one of the greatest football scenes ever captured on film. Stallone plays Frank Leone in the 1989 film Lockup. We open the film with Stallone throwing a touchdown pass to a kid with red sweatpants in the face of a vicious pass rush. We all said that team didn't sink enough money into the O-line, and this kid received a 15-yard penalty for excessive celebration. It turns out that he's on a weekend furlough from a minimum security prison, but Donald Sutherland is the warden of the maximum security prison, Warden Drumgool, and he doesn't like Stallone because Stallone escaped from one of his prisons 5 years earlier for a very righteous reason that's not worth going into. This does not happen legally. Donald Sutherland does what he wants. They expect us to believe, with 6 months left on a minimum security sentence, that the warden of the maximum security can just take him. But Warden Drumgool, or Donald Sutherland, has an ace in the hole, and that's Sonny Landham, 2 years off of his legendary role as Billy in The Predator. But Stallone is street smart, and he's also prison smart, and he knows how to talk himself out of sticky situations. He becomes like the prisoner's prisoner and a mentor to some of the younger ones. This really isn't that bad of a prison outside of Warden Drumgool. Their garage puts Napa Auto Parts to shame, and they even restore an old vintage car to a montage. Ultimately, this isn't a great movie. Like, they have a Birdman theme, like he's been in prison so long that he talks to birds, like every other prison movie ever. But this movie just isn't good enough to pull that kind of plotline off. This guy thinks he's Burt Lancaster. The instrument for Drumgool's revenge against Leone is, of course, Sonny Landham. He's the scariest guy in the prison, and he receives privileges from the warden for his services. A key player in this game. Now let's get to the tail of the tape. Who's the pro comparison for Frank Leone? I'm going to say that it's Fran Tarkenton. Now that may be lofty, and I was gonna say Cade McNown, but let's be fair. Tarkenton was criticized throughout his career for holding on to the ball too long, and I think that's a fair criticism of Leone in this game. Being fair to Leone though, this game's conditions didn't exactly favor the passing game, as you will see. And then there's Sonny Landham, where I think a lot of teams would have put him at defensive end given his immense size at 6'5". But he does play a solid kind of roaming middle linebacker, and he calls the defense and shows surprisingly good leadership. I also think he benefits from some solid defensive line play in this game, possibly underrated. Pro comparisons, probably Bill Romanowski, I would say. Maybe Lyle Alzado. They were both probably 50 cents short of a dollar, just like Sonny Landham's character. But they showed passion for the game and no-quit attitudes, and they weren't going to take any nonsense from anybody. Me personally, if I were the coach, I would have put Weber at D-tackle for disruption purposes. And then we have Eclipse. We established that he's 6'7" and close to 300 pounds. He's a left tackle for the team. I'd put his pro comparison as Orlando Pace, one of the greatest left tackles of all time. Eclipse is on a snap count due to the fact that he's 50 years of age, so he can only play in the fourth quarter. But for the snaps he does play, he graded out as a 95 on PFF. This is Trent Williams territory, if you're wondering. It's clear when the game starts that Stallone's team's undermanned. He catches a quick ball in the flat for 3 yards and is tackled quickly. Eclipse is getting restless on the sidelines, but we need him fresh for the fourth quarter. The game is getting out of hand though, and I think one of the issues is that they had Prince William playing quarterback for them. All of the talk shows leading up to the game say that it was time to make a change. Stallone is gaining confidence after a 12-yard run, his longest run of the day. The problem is the weather conditions are worsening. We don't know if the ground crew is going to call the game. But like all the greats before him, when the weather gets worse, Stallone gets even better. He's 11 years before Maximus Decimus Meridius, but he brings them together like a team. He has them clicking their heels in unison. After a sweep to the right produces 9 yards, Stallone flickers his hair in an odd throwing scene. Everything about this game is now descending into complete madness. The all-pro guards even turn on Stallone at one point, and Eclipse has had enough, and he decides it's time to enter the game. It seems as though Sonny Landham is also playing his best in the fourth quarter. This is the muddiest game I think I've ever seen. The 1968 Thanksgiving game between the Eagles and, of course, the Lions. The conditions are eerily similar. Here's a fact for you. Frank McRae, who plays Eclipse in this film, actually played 1 year earlier for the Chicago Bears for 6 games. He was a 6'6" defensive tackle, not an offensive tackle like in this movie. Late in the game, Eclipse throws massive blocks and Stallone breaks one. At the last moment, he pitches the ball to the giant Eclipse, who runs it in for a touchdown. He takes Sonny Landham out in the process. This was a satisfying moment. Eclipse is happy. They have won the game. They have taken the world by storm. I'm giving Stallone the MVP award. By my calculations, he had 9 carries for 112 yards and a touchdown. He had 1 catch for 3 yards, but he also had a drop early in the game. In a losing effort, Sonny Landham was all over the field with 9 tackles and 3 quarterback sacks. In an act of poor sportsmanship, and Stallone for some reason didn't see this coming, Sonny Landham charges him from behind. I don't think I've ever seen an angrier charge. He looks like a complete whack job. While Stallone is soaking up the moment, he is completely blindsided by Landham. This movie takes some seriously dark turns at points, which I won't go into, but all ends up okay, and when he leaves the prison, he is literally a celebrity. Drumgoole and his henchmen are exposed for their bad deeds. Drumgoole is evil throughout this entire movie. It makes you wonder, what is he like at home? Does he call his son at college to talk about the rowing team? I've seen this movie probably 50 times, but I would say that the most memorable part by far is the football scene. It makes a prison yard game feel like the Super Bowl. But Stallone always had a flair for the dramatic.